Hey guys, Kevin here for the season of Girls, because of course season 5 just ended last night, and therefore I'm going to review it to you guys. You guys know that going into, Girls season 5, I basically had the same fears I've had with the whole show. I mean, this is a show that can have some really, really strong episodes, and then because of its characters being not that likable to me and making some really bad decisions and kind of just being kind of unlikable in general, it's hard to enjoy this show, and I really didn't know how the season was going to be, especially knowing that they have 2 left. I mean, I really didn't know if they were even cared anymore, but I will say, not only is the fact that they have 2 seasons completely, I think, kind of made them realize that they need to focus more on things that they need more focus on things that matter. This, by far, in my opinion, was my favorite season of Girls Today. I love season 5, and I don't really know why exactly I loved it. There are so many things I loved about it, definitely. I think this was an incredible season. This really was everything I've loved about this show, and they also did a great job with really making these characters more interesting, getting us to understand why they are the way they are, and not just having them bitchy to be bitchy. They have genuine reasons for what they're going through. I definitely really did enjoy that. I think each character really got a really nice fleshed out story, and let's just get into the season, because there really is a lot that I loved, honestly. There really isn't much I disliked about this season. Really, there's only a few things that I was worried about, but the thing is with this season, anything I was worried about turned out great, and let's just start off with the season, because the way this season started off, right away, I was very happy with the way things were turning out, because we go all the way to Marnie and Desi's wedding day, which I thought was a really smart choice, because as we know, Marnie and Desi, they have, basically, Desi has proposed to her, and they're planning on getting married. We go all the way to their wedding day. Marnie isn't actually the one that's worried. Desi, in fact, is the one that's thinking, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Marnie, kind of, her mother is the one that's having wedding jitters, which I thought was kind of funny, who we don't get to see her mother again, unfortunately, but she was very funny to see. I really did enjoy seeing that character. I thought she did a very good job. But surprisingly, Desi's the one that's freaking out. He's thinking that Marnie's not the right one, and Ray's still dealing with the fact that he kind of wants Marnie. And of course, as we know, Ray and Desi are friends, and basically, Ray doesn't really know how to, well, not really friends, but Ray and Desi, they definitely, Ray obviously has some beef with Desi because he's still not over Marnie, as we saw from last season, so they have this whole fallout, and they're still trying to figure out really what's going on there, if they really should be together, and I thought that was a very interesting story. I liked the way that played out. But basically, what ends up happening is, I did really like what they ended up doing with Hannah in this episode, because that was the thing that really stuck out the most for me. You guys know, I'm not a fan of Hannah's character. I usually don't like her character. I think she really is a character that had a very cathartic season last season, and if anything, I really think that helped her, because she is a lot, less bitchy this season. I think Hannah in this season is a lot more aware of, how to improve herself, and how to take the best qualities of herself and her flaws, and basically make them into qualities, and that's kind of what she does in this season. Yes, Hannah has a quirky nature to her. What I really didn't like is that she didn't tell Marnie, I don't want you to go through with this marriage. I thought she was going to do that. She would tell her, I don't want you to do this. This is a terrible mistake, and basically just do what she does and bitch on about it. That's not all she does. She actually tells Marnie, I don't care what you do. You want to get married. It's the right thing for you to do. Go live your life. I mean, they have this really nice scene that I really did enjoy, and the friendship between Marnie and Hannah is stronger than ever, and that's something I definitely really enjoyed, was the fact that Hannah gave her basically her blessing for Marnie to marry Desi. She said, look, you want to marry Desi, I'm completely fine. Not necessarily her blessing, but she did say, I don't really have a problem with this. I'm not going to try to stop this. I'm not going to try to talk you out of this. And especially after all the problems that Hannah's had with love, she doesn't care that Marnie and Desi are getting married. She doesn't really care about that. She thinks that they're going to be fine together. She really doesn't think there's much of a problem there, and to her, there's nothing really wrong with this, and I kind of like seeing that. I was surprised that Hannah wasn't upset about, because, this is Hannah we're talking about, but she wasn't upset. She does actually let them get married, and not only do they get married, they get married, basically, and that's how the first episode turns out. So now we'll get to basically what the rest of this season is, because each character does have their own storyline this season, in many different ways, and many different storylines going on. A lot of them are intertwining, but of course, we have to talk about Hannah first, who I thought had her best storyline yet. If I had to pick a character that had the most improved storyline, without a doubt, Hannah had the most improved storyline. I mean, her storyline this season, I thought was fantastic. It didn't come across as repetitive. It didn't didn't come across as just Hannah being a bitchy, unlikable character. It actually came across as Hannah learning more and more of who she really is. And a lot of this season, I think, is about the characters learning more of who they are, embracing that they're growing up, and kind of finding themselves a bit, which I definitely do like seeing. I think that definitely was something we did see this season. So Hannah, as we know, she's now with Fran, and Fran is a great guy. That's something I loved. Right off the bat, season 4, I said, we gotta keep Fran around. I'm very happy that they made Fran a series regular. You see, he really cares for her, he wants to be with Hannah, he's really supporting her. Unfortunately, they have about nothing in common. There's really nothing that different about them. There's really nothing that's similar about them. Hannah, as we know, is very vulgar and kind of promiscuous, while Fran's really clean. In fact, he doesn't like porn, which I thought was kind of a funny reveal, that he doesn't love porn and rather watches his ex-girlfriend's photos to jerk off, which I thought was kind of a funny scene. Now, little fights like this don't seem like a big deal, but Hannah right away thinks that something's just not right with Fran, that he seems like a seemingly good guy, and she doesn't really know if he's good, and it's perfectly understandable why she thinks this. I mean, think of every other guy that Hannah's been with, especially Adam, characters, Adam's been the biggest one, obviously. Adam seemed like a good guy, and obviously he wasn't. He had major control issues, and that's why those two can never be together. But that is something I like that they did do this season. They didn't try to get Hannah and Adam back together. It seems like every season they try to do that, and now you can tell that Hannah's completely over Adam. She doesn't want to be with him, she doesn't want anything to do with him, and that's something I definitely really did enjoy. But as the season goes on, things just don't seem well between Hannah and Fran. They're arguing a lot, there's a lot of arguments going down, basically, and you don't really know what's going to happen there. I was honestly kind of worried for them, really. I was kind of worried what was going to happen. Unfortunately, things don't end up working out. Basically, Hannah realizes that her and Fran, they don't have much in common, especially after she goes to visit her parents and, basically starts to realize more of who she is. Through this one, basically, she wants to get away from Fran. She just doesn't feel like she can be with him, and basically, she decides to start, she gives, Ray a blowjob to, get closer with him. Very interesting the way that scene was done. But the thing I love about this, most likely, most of anything, is that Hannah basically, she gets into this guy who has a gun in the back of his truck, but it doesn't really matter because this guy is going to New York. He's kind of rediscovering himself. He's, discovering more of who he is, and this really is an eye-opening experience for Hannah. She's realizing that this guy is basically restarting his entire life and basically pushing out everything else that's happened in the past, just getting rid of it all, just completely starting fresh, and that's exactly what Hannah wants to do. Hannah realizes in this moment, I don't need men. I don't need men to define my life. I don't need men in my life. I need to focus on myself. I need to focus on rediscovering my future, and basically that's exactly what she decides to do, which I thought was a brilliant move. I love that they did that. I never thought a character like Hannah would make that mature of a decision, but she actually does, and I love that we got that. She basically decides to go to her parents. She's gonna live with them. She's gonna start to become a writer again, and I definitely really did love seeing that. We'll get into more of that with the finale, but that's basically what happens with Hannah this season. But the other big part is with Jessa, because Jessa very much is connected with Hannah. Jessa, as we know, she's now become a therapist, and the big part of the season, though, is that Jessa, we have to remember, is very erratic, even more so than Hannah, and the season really does explore that. As we know, her and Adam were getting very close last season, and right at the beginning of the season, we see that they're supposedly together. They don't really know what to call it. They don't really know if they're friends, if they're not friends, and as the season goes on, they start to get closer and closer, and basically realize that they want to be together, and that they do want to make this relationship work, and it actually is very sweet. I did like the relationship overall. You see that Adam really does care for her, and he wants to make things work for Jessa. You can see that Adam really does love her. I mean, there's this one scene where her sister's kind of insulting her and everything, and Adam really does stick up and defend her, which I definitely really did love seeing. But of course, when Hannah finds out, she's not necessarily upset that it's Adam and Jessa. She's more upset that Jessa would do this to her. She doesn't because obviously, she's not upset that, Adam's with someone. She's not at all upset about that. She knew Adam was going to move on. She's not upset about that. She's upset that Jessa would go to Adam like this, and they probably have one of the biggest fights they've ever had. We know how tight Hannah and Jess have always been. This is the season that breaks them up. They're no longer friends after this season. They basically realize that they're going in way two different directions. They can't be friends anymore. Jessa goes with Adam, Hannah goes on her own, and that's something I did like seeing. I thought the Jessa-Adam relationship really worked very well. This could have been a really cheesy type relationship, and it could have been something where it felt very forced and very much like fan service, but that's not what it felt like at all. It felt very natural. It felt like this was a necessary direction for the show to go. When they did this, I was like, you know what? Yeah, that does make sense. It would make sense for Hannah and Jessa and Adam to get together. They're both going through very similar experiences. Adam in the sense that he has a lot of, grief over what happened with Hannah, and Jessa in the sense that she just has a lot going on in her life. She's very emotional about things that have happened to her and things like that. And they both really do need each other. And as much, as crazy as the both of them are, they really do need each other, and they really are perfect for each other. And that's something I definitely love seeing. I thought they worked that arc perfectly this season, and that was something I was worried about. But as it went on, the other thing is Adam Driver and the girl that plays Jess, I can't think of her name right now, they have undeniable chemistry. They have fantastic chemistry. They work great together. You guys don't believe me? Go to episode 2 of season 5 when they go on like this date. It's really cute, actually. And I was surprised by how cute their scenes really were. Like, it did come across as genuine. It wasn't just something where, oh, we're not supposed to like this. No, you do see that Adam and Jessa really bring the best and worst out of them. We'll get to the worst part when we get to the finale, but I definitely really like that's one of my favorite parts of this season. Marnie, however, I feel had the best arc this season. I absolutely love what they did with Marnie. I thought it was very well done. I definitely really did enjoy it because Marnie has always been basically the bitch of the show. I mean, Hannah as well, definitely. Hannah's always been kind of like just very stuck up and kind of into herself. But Marnie, I mean, she really is the rich girl. That's who she is. She's the rich girl. She's kind of spoiled. And you do start to see that she's starting to get away from that a little bit this season. She is starting to focus more on her future. And I definitely did like seeing that. Especially what's going on with her and Desi. Because her and Desi, you can tell right away that their marriage is just not really working out. I mean, he is very, manipulating. He's very powerful. And it's not really working out as well as she wants it to. She's changing. And basically, she just can't really take anymore. He really is blaming everything on her. He's not really taking the blame for anything. And in by far the best episode of this season, we get a park in Central Park, the Panic in Central Park, which by far was my favorite episode of the season, without a doubt. I absolutely loved everything about this episode. And we did have little things with Marnie and Desi going on here and there, like them singing and everything. I thought that was well done the way they did that. Definitely, there was some really good stuff there. Desi basically starts to, start this like major construction project in their studio apartment, and it's just he's doing all these things without Marnie's discretion. And episode 6 is the perfect idea that Marnie is definitely changing, and she really is turning into this much more likable character, which I really love seeing. Basically, we see in this episode, Marnie's completely had it with Desi. Nothing that he's doing before charms her. None of this stuff that usually made her upset or felt pity for Desi. She just wants nothing to do with him. She then walks out on him. She goes to New York, and the entire episode focuses on Marnie basically discovering who she really is. And I love the way this episode was done. I think it was very well handled. She runs into Charlie, who, if you remember, Charlie was the guy from season 1 and 2 that she dated, and then she broke up with at the end of season 2, basically because he was seemingly too perfect for her. Like, he just didn't work for her. He was too nice for her. That's really what it was all about. And we see right away that he really has changed. He's basically gone into this gangster life. He's got these guys following him, and right away Marnie wants to go back to that life. Basically, her and Charlie, they're connecting more. They even have sex, and probably one of the best sex scenes on the show, because it basically cuts away. I mean, it didn't feel gratuitous at all. It felt like it made sense, and probably my favorite scene of the season is when Charlie is talking to Marnie all about how, oh, we can run away, and I want to run away with you, and I want all these things to happen, and Marnie wants to, like, she's okay with that. She's not thinking, no, I don't want to do this. Like, she's actually thinking she wants to run away, and she actually wants to leave with Charlie and just leave. I think she thinks that's the best thing for her, and I was really thinking, all right, maybe that is the best thing for her. That is until she meets this other girl as well, which I thought was very interesting. That she sees this other girl in the bathroom. The subtext in this episode was actually very deep. I was surprised by how deep this episode was, but there actually is very deep meanings in this episode, especially with this one girl that she meets in the bathroom, who basically warns her of the impending doom coming her way, that the future is just gonna suck and life is just sucks in these many ways, and that basically sets up what happens when Marnie finds a needle in Charlie's pockets, and basically he tries to say that he's diabetic. She knows that there's more going on, and now it's not the situation that Charlie is too perfect for her. It's that the Charlie that she once knew is the one that she wants back. The problem is she's realizing way too late. You know, the Charlie that she once had is gone. This is not the same Charlie. He has completely changed, and unfortunately, they just can't be together. It's really sad to see, because you can see that Marnie really does want that life with Charlie, and she does want to run away with him. The problem is he really has fucked himself over very hard. He's gotten into drugs, he's gotten into gangs, and he just isn't the same man that she once knew. And I'm sure that Marnie feels bad for him, but this really does change a lot of, you know, how Marnie feels about things. You can tell she really wants to be, you know, much more loving of a man. And she goes back to Desi and gives one of the most honest speeches we've seen from Marnie in years. I absolutely love this scene. She says to Marnie, "Look, I understand that we got married. I understand that you love me, but there's just something about you that I just can't be with. I just don't want to be with you." And she basically tells him it's not, you know, she's not being selfish. She just says straight out, "I don't want to be with you. That we can't, this is not going to work anymore, and we have to end this." And basically, they do in fact decide to get a divorce. She ends up going to Hannah and Fran's apartment, of all things. She goes to their apartment basically for a little while. But then it seems like she actually starts to get closer with Ray, and that whole situation starts up, and you're wondering really what's going to happen there. The problem is Marnie still has her music career with Desi. Like, she still is working with Desi musically, even though they're not together, she's still working with him musically. And he starts to have this other girlfriend that Marnie really is worried is going to replace her, because there's this other girl that he really is close with, and he's starting to kind of forget about her. And once again, you know, it seems like Desi cares more about himself than he does about her. And this obviously really upsets Marnie. She doesn't really know what to do about it. And that basically gets us to where we get in the season finale, which we will get into because I really do want to talk about that. And that's basically Marnie's arc of the season. A very well done arc. I love the way that was done. Not that Marnie's arc last season wasn't great, but this was just a lot more personal. This was Marnie rediscovering herself, realizing who she is, realizing the choices that she's done wrong, and I definitely really love that. And then the last, of course, we have two more storylines to talk about. First of all, Shoshana. Let's talk about Shoshana, because Shoshana is the one that is basically separated from everyone this season. As we know, she did get a position in Japan. She's now working in Japan, and her life seems great. Everyone really respects her. Everyone's taking her seriously. It's something that Shoshana's not used to. She's used to usually being the one that's outspoken, being the one that is very smart, but that no one really wants to listen to. And at this point, everyone's listening to her, everyone's loving her, and they really did a great job of showing the Japan culture. And, you know, that was something that Lee and Dunham said they really wanted to hammer in, was show Japan culture, show stuff like that. She starts to love the Japan culture, and she starts to fall for this guy, that she's with, that is her boss, basically. You know, she starts to flirt with him. What was his name? I can't think of his name right now, but she basically starts to flirt with this guy, and unfortunately he's her boss, and there's a whole problem with them. They can't be together. Her friend basically comes back from Japan, warns her that this isn't gonna work, and unfortunately Shoshana does end up getting fired. And it's really sad, because you think for a second Shoshana's gonna be able to have this great life, but then unfortunately she does get fired. She then has to go back all the way to, you know, where she doesn't want to, obviously the one place that she doesn't want to go, which is, you know, back in, you know, back in wherever they live. I can't think of where they live right now, but basically back there. And she doesn't really want to be back there, and she doesn't have a ton of interaction with the rest of the girls, which I thought was very interesting. It's kind of Shoshana rediscovering herself, trying to build herself up, and that was something I really did enjoy. We see her and Elijah kind of get closer, which, let's get into Elijah, because I've always been kind of hit or miss on Elijah. Some of it I've liked, some of it I haven't. This was the first season where it didn't really have to do with Hannah. Elijah kind of had his own thing, and you really do see that there's this guy that Elijah actually really does like, and for many ways he kind of does change Elijah. Elijah realizes that as much as he loves this guy, they just can't be together because the guy deserves something better than him, and It's a really sweet relationship. You don't really know if this is going to work, but unfortunately, Elijah realized it's not going to work, and he actually does decide to change himself for the better. Very much Elijah changed himself as well. He's not going to be as much of an asshole, and again, a lot of it is the characters just realizing who they are, realizing that they need to turn themselves around. That's exactly what Elijah decides to do here, which I loved, and I thought that was very well done. I definitely really did enjoy that. Really great stuff there, and again, like I said, really good stuff with Elijah. I really did appreciate it. So now we've covered everything, let's get to the finale, because there's actually a lot to talk about in the finale that happened, obviously. So if you guys haven't seen the finale, I know it just happened last night. There are 2 episodes. I'm going to talk about both episodes. If you guys haven't seen finale, do not watch the rest of this video, because I'm going to spoil everything that happened, and yeah, so... And then, watch the finale, then come back and we can talk about the rest, and we can talk about the rest, once you've seen it. Okay. So, I absolutely love this finale. Girls' finales for me have always been, again, like I said, kind of hit or miss. Some of them have been very good, like last year's finale I thought was very strong, but they all have focused on Hannah and Adam. That's the thing. That's been the main course, big relationship of this show is Hannah and Adam. This was the first finale that didn't focus on Hannah and Adam. Sure, Adam and Hannah were both a part of it, but it did not focus on Hannah and Adam. By the way, something else I want to say about the Jessa-Adam relationship. At first, I thought this was just a stunt to keep Adam on the show because it seemed like Adam was done after last season, but it really just worked, especially in the scene with Jessa and Adam that I know you guys want me to get into. But let's talk about Hannah, because as we know, she does end up, basically going to New York. She enjoys New York. She decides to explore more of it. She actually decides to quit her job because it's just not working for her. She basically wants to turn things around, and she quits her job as a basically, as a principal, which she also was clashing with Fran over, not principal. She does clash with Fran over being a teacher. There are certain things that he thinks she should do that she shouldn't. He thinks that she's being too easy, things like that, which I think was interesting. But basically, she tells Principal Toby she's not going to come back next year, and he's actually okay with it. He understands why she had to do that. He loves having her there, but he understands that. And I like that he wasn't a hard ass about it. Like, he said, all right, I understand why you have to leave. And she runs into her friend Tally, her friend Tally basically kind of shows her this carefree life, where Tally's this girl that basically she has been her like frenemy, and they actually bond really well. You can see that Tally is doing a lot of drugs, things like that, but she's kind of just living a fun life, and it's kind of something that Hannah wants to do. The bonding between these two I definitely really did love. They do end up getting really high, even almost think about having sex for a second, which I thought was pretty funny, and they end up they basically end up in Jessa and Adam's apartment, which Jessa and Adam walk in on them, which Hannah says to never speak of. So basically, long story short, she decides to go to her parents, where she decides to completely rediscover herself, and I definitely love seeing that. I like seeing her bonding with Tad and Laureen, because Laureen is going through a lot as well. Of course, Tad's gay, and she doesn't really know how to come over, how to come over that because of the whole situation, but I like that Elijah was there. I like that Elijah and Laureen, I like their interaction. I thought it was kind of cool. I definitely enjoyed seeing that. But basically, Hannah decides to participate in the Moth Story Slam, which is basically the slam for the sexiest story possible about sex, basically. And you can see Hannah decides to go up. She actually tells the story of Jessa and Adam having sex, and that she wasn't really upset about it, but she tried to do something about it. She's gotten over it, and I love seeing that. She's gonna go be a writer, and I thought that was a very good arc for her to have. And I love the way it ended as well, with her actually running by herself, because it shows for the first time Hannah's on her own. She's solo. She doesn't need a man in her life. There is no man in her life, and she's okay with that. She doesn't want anyone in her life. She wants to move on, and I think it's the perfect direction to take her in for the final season. I can't wait to see how that's going to be. I think it's the perfect direction for her. But probably my favorite scene in this episode were the scenes between Jessa and Adam, because it just showed how compatible these two really are. I mean, yes, they have a crazy relationship, but it really does show why these two are together, I think. Yes, Jessa and Adam, like I said, they really do have a lot in common, you can tell, not unlike, Hannah and Fran. But the other big scene, of course, is what ends up happening with this baby. Of course, they have to take care of this baby, and Adam just starts wailing on Jessa, basically talking about how Hannah, isn't friends with her because she's a bitch and everything, and he starts talking about all these things he wants. He doesn't want to hear Hannah's name. He doesn't want to talk about her. He just wants nothing to do with her, and they really start to bond over this. And the thing is, as crazy as the scene is, it really does show why these two are together. I mean, they both are very erratic. They have a lot going on. Jessa's not handling this very well. Adam's not either, but they kind of need each other to conquer, to handle this together. And I thought it was very interesting the way it was done. It was kind of a sweet scene in the end. It was very destructive, but it was very sweet, and it does show that they really do need each other, and I do like seeing Jessa and Adam. Honestly, surprising relationship that has worked very well. I was surprised by how well it worked, but I definitely really did enjoy that. Ray gets a lot of focus, though, in this episode, though, because basically Ray, he does end up talking to Marnie, basically, and they right away decide to basically Marnie ends up having a sex dream about Ray. We see she talks to Elijah, but she doesn't really know what to make of it. And long story short, her and Ray actually do end up having sex. They are back together, and I love seeing this. This is what Ray has always wanted. Marnie needs someone like Ray. Now that she's a different person, now that she's not just this stuck-up person, she really wants more commitment, and Ray's gonna give that to her. Ray's gonna give her what she wants, and I definitely really do love that. It's a new direction for her to take, but now they have to worry about Desi, because we see there's a scene where, Marnie's she basically wants to take Ray on tour, because her and Desi are going on tour, and she wants Ray to come with her, but you can tell right away this is going to be a problem, because when they try to go to Desi is completely ignoring them. He's getting a blowjob from this girl, he's ignoring them, he's not answering, the door for whatever reason, and you can tell that this is definitely going to be a problem. Desi's definitely going to be a prick about it, and it definitely is going to be a problem as the next season, so we'll have to see what happens there. It's going to be very interesting. And as far as Shoshana does get to work in Ray's coffee shop, as well as this other guy's coffee shop, and they kind of bond over that. You can see as Shoshana is getting something good, someone is appreciating her, which is something that Shoshana wants. She basically just wants to be appreciated, and I definitely really did enjoy that. And basically that's how the season ends. Everyone really gets something new. They all have to explore something, and I definitely really did love that. Each character really just had to explore something new they haven't really experienced before. Hannah in the sense of being on her own, Jessa in the sense of being with Adam and basically realizing how, destructive that relationship is going to be, but that, how compatible they really are as well. Shoshana basically having someone appreciate her, and Marnie basically having to handle being with Ray and also handling how she handles Desi, which I think is a very good arc. And overall, like I said, I love this season of Girls. And it wasn't just because of those storylines. I think the storylines, like I said, were very well done this season. None of them really fell out of place. They were a lot more focused. I could tell what was going on more. I probably like the season more, honestly, than Togetherness. I thought Togetherness was really great, but I actually really like Girls a lot more, because Girls did some really daring stuff. It did some stuff that it hasn't done before. It went in some really unexpected directions, and I really appreciate that. The directing here was fantastic. I think the directing was really well done. They focused a lot more on characters. It was a very character-driven season, and I really love that. A lot of times it's been a very plot-driven season where they just want to throw a bunch of drama, and this season was more of a personal season. All the characters were exploring themselves personally, basically realizing who they were, and especially knowing it's the final season, you can definitely tell why the show is still going on. I think the show overall has been about these people discovering themselves, and now they're realizing who they are. They're no longer going to make these bad decisions. They're now realizing more of who they are, and I really do love seeing that. And I do think that we are headed for a much more positive season in Season 6, and I can't wait to see how that turns out, which of course is the final season, which I'm really looking forward to, honestly. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I really am. After the season, this really made me hopeful about what the rest of the show could be. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens there. I think the teleplay was spot on. Some of the dialogue was just fantastic. Especially the Panic in Central Park. There's just so many things to comment with that episode. I absolutely loved everything about that episode. That was an incredibly well done episode. The way that was done, I absolutely loved it. I loved the scores in this episode. Just everything about this season, I just thought was on par. I really think it was the best season Girls has had. Without a doubt, the best one in Season 2. You guys know I really love Seasons 1 and 2. Season 3, it lost me. Season 4 was starting to get better, and this really is how they achieve greatness. I absolutely love the season of Girls. I can't wait to see where next season goes, and I now really do love this show. I don't really know what happened. I was freaking out that I loved it. I didn't know if I was going crazy, but every episode was great. There wasn't a single dud this season. Well, maybe the episode where Hannah goes bisexual for like an episode, but even that I think was to explore Hannah realizing that she more areas of herself rather than just being with Fran. There are other paths, and I think that episode really explored that. So overall, guys, I'm sure you guys saw a season of Girls. If you have seen it, love to hear your thoughts on it. How does the season compare to other seasons? I absolutely loved everything about this season. I really thought this season was, like I said, probably the best one we've had. I absolutely loved it. And I will see you guys in my next year, which will be for the season finale. Yes, I know there are so many finales and, this week, but again, we have another finale. And that'll be for the season finale of Supergirl, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.